This video is sponsored by Cerebral, more on that later. Hi, happy Halloween! It's Halloween! The holiday where there's just no rules, and every year you get frustrated because it's kind of creepy if you trick or treat, but you're also not cool enough to get invited to the Halloween parties. You're the one that thinks that, not me. I'm not just projecting my own insecurities onto this joke. Witch curse! I know special effects. Are you impressed? Although my favorite part about Halloween is usually the absurd amount of candy I get to eat, now I have the money to do that year round, so my new favorite thing to do around Halloween is horror movies. Yes, I do horror movies. That makes sense, Nick. So I'm really bad at watching movies, so when I do watch one, it either needs to make me laugh or make me really anxious, and I normally choose the latter. I like to be stressed out when I watch a movie. Sure, most of the time it's not that fun, and I'm usually just yelling at the screen, but at least I'm not bored. So horror movies have been my genre of choice as of late. But through all of the horror recommendations I hear, one thing seems to be a common theme, and that is things coming to life. And that makes sense, right? Your classic horror movie usually revolves around something coming to life, whether it's the house coming to life in Monster House, Chucky animating as a small child murderer would in Child's Play,
I have a date with a 6-year-old boy,
or zombies coming to haunt the passengers in Train to Busan. But throughout this popular theme, I found something even more interesting, and that's horror's fascination with inanimate objects coming to life. And sure, the easiest way to understand this is through your Chuckies and your Annabelles, a humanoid object coming to haunt the people in the film. But I'm talking about something even more interesting than that. Objects that aren't humanoid. It can be as simple as a car, something that seemingly first hit the horror scene in 1977 with Elliot Silverstein's The Car, which is a film about a garbage disposal. Just a joke. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. This is one of the first movies of its kind where an old car gets possessed and haunts a town of people that just don't know what to do. Maybe just stay inside. Now I'll tell you right away that that strategy does not work.
I think I hear the engine of that car.
This car is unstoppable. It honestly has way more power than you'd expect a car to have. I guess it can just straight up push other cars off of cliffs into rampant fire, and it can cause avalanches. My favorite part of this movie is one of the first scenes where the car attacks these two bikers. Now the amazing thing about bikes is that you can go off-road in them, and you'd expect these lovely people to understand that, but unfortunately for them, they can't do much besides yell in horror as the car boops their tires to death. Now on the other side of the coin, you have Slacks, one of the newer films in this genre, and it's about a possessed pair of jeans that kills a bunch of people. Spoilers for the movie Slacks if this seems like your kind of movie. Now I'll try to censor all the blood, but if pixelated blood is still gross to you, I would probably skip this part, and there's probably a lot more parts that you'll have to skip in this video. The girl who picked the cotton that would later become a stylish pair of jeans accidentally fell into the cotton mill, and therefore her blood and guts were sort of mixed in and turned into denim, I guess. Then the jeans were sold at a department store where you would assume the movie would be like, whoever wears the jeans are possessed by them and they'll go and kill everybody. But instead it's just like, nope, the jeans are fully alive and will strangle, slice, and dice every single person it comes across and drink their blood. And its first target is this poor lady who tries on the jeans, and the jeans become so tight that it pops her like a balloon. Now you'd expect the jeans to be pooled in her blood, but it's absolutely resistant to it and still looks brand new, which is the most surprising part about this pair of demonic trousers. Matter of fact, it actually drinks its victim's blood like some sort of stylish Dracula. So just Dracula, I guess. That's right, I'm saying Dracula's sexy, and these Slacks can do anything. After it literally hides the girl's entire body, it drags itself down the hallway and hides waiting for its next victim so it can cut his fingers off using the zipper on the pants. And even though a pair of jeans carry out most of the murders in this movie, the funniest death is towards the end of the movie when a girl is trying to hold back a fleet of excited shoppers from entering a mall full of deadly jeans, and against her best effort is pushed backwards, cracking her head open as dozens of shoppers rush in without any regard for her health at all. Now let's talk about the real reason why I'm diving so deep into the obsession of these ravaging and possessed inanimate objects. I want to figure out how to make one of my own. Well, that's a bit too complicated and I would suck at making movies, so let me rephrase that. I want to figure out, if I were to hypothetically make one of these movies, which item would make for the best film about an inanimate object psycho killer. And to do that, I'm using math, but nothing actually complicated. I'm a YouTuber. I mean, look at me. But I'm going to take all of the popular films in this genre, categorize the item that is featured as the deadly killer, and then attach their IMDb rating to figure out which category has the highest average review, and then make my item fall within that category so I can make the next hit Halloween slasher about an inanimate object coming to life and killing people. Tell me this is a good idea. It's the only thing holding me back from going to therapy. Which reminds me, this video is sponsored by Cerebral. Cerebral is a mental health platform that provides clients with access to ongoing online prescription medication management, counseling, and therapy for anxiety, depression, insomnia, and other conditions, all for a flat monthly rate. What does Cerebral offer, you ask? Well, my favorite part of it is that it's all online. You can do visits with your provider, therapist, or care counselor from the comfort of your home when it's most convenient for you. Cerebral also has a comprehensive long-term care model which is designed for long-term treatment. They have integrated behavioral and medication therapy so your therapist and doctor are talking to each other and you get the best care. It's also affordable. Whether or not you have insurance, therapy with Cerebral can cost 3 times less than traditional therapy services. One of the things that holds me back from going to therapy more than I do is the price, and to know that there's a better option is really great. Therapy takes time to go through the process and find the right person for you, and some people just don't have that money or time to make it work. And Cerebral can make that process more time and cost effective. It's easy to answer the questions and choose a plan to figure out what's best for you. Cerebral offers 3 different plans: medication and care counseling, medication and therapy, and just therapy. They also have a convenient mobile app which is on the Google Play and App Store. So if you'd like to take the next step in working on your mental health, click the link in my description to start the questionnaire and get connected with the provider right away. And your first month starts at only $30. Thank you again to Cerebral for sponsoring this video. Let's get back to the fun. Okay, so our first category is the most popular, and that is going to be automotive. These are films like The Car, but also Christine, which also happens to be about a car. Now, Christine features a car that goes by a much simpler way of killing its victims, which our first killer just dies unexpectedly by entering the car. A number of years later, a horny teen named Arnie finds the car, and he offers a horrible negotiation to this scary man for the vehicle.
How much do you want for? I mean, whatever it is, it's not enough.
And even against the well wishes of his bestie, Arnie needs this car for some godforsaken reason. Oh, and you think he might be the horniest guy in this movie? You should see the old man who sold him the car.
She had the smell of a brand new car. That's just about the finest smell in the world. Except maybe for pussy.
The next person this car kills is also in a very offhand approach, which is just causing Arnie's hot date to choke on her food and die.
You get your goddamn hands off her!
But not every automotive film has to do with a car. The oldest of the bunch is Killdozer, which is a film about a violent bulldozer. Seems like it'd be an exciting movie, but there's not much to do with a bulldozer just slowly trudging around a quarry trying to crush things. My favorite defense in the entire movie is when this guy just throws a wrench at the bulldozer to try to kill it.
Come on and get me. Come on. Over here.
And I mean, this video wouldn't be complete with arguably the most infamous film of the genre. This is the first one that I saw when I was probably in middle school, and it's called Rubber. Most of you have probably seen or heard about this film, and there's countless videos online about it, so I'm not going to dive too deep into it. But the main premise is that there's a psychic tire that's terrorizing a town, and it can make people's heads explode. And from what I remember, it's not really worth the watch. If you're looking for a film with a similar name but completely different premise, I would recommend Flubber.
And the heck is that king?
Okay, so at this point I'm realizing that there's a pretty distinct difference between a lot of the films on this list. Some of them go by a more direct way of killing, like The Car and Slacks, where the object is very directly attacking its victims. Oh, a musician. But some of the objects go by their killings in a more indirect way, like some sort of twisted death note. This would be films like Christine and Rubber. So I'm gonna split these films into 2 categories, direct and indirect killing, and take the average score of both to see if my film should take either approach to improve its score and make a better film. I mean, this system is flawless. Okay, let's circle back to Slacks for our next category, which is clothing. This genre is relatively new, with the oldest film I could find being The Wig, which came out in 2005. This is a South Korean horror movie that also went by the name Scary Hair. Similar to Slacks, a wig is cursed when the person sewing it accidentally pokes their little finger on the sewing machine, and then their blood becomes one with the wig. A girl is gifted a wig by her sister because of her cancer, and then craziness ensues. Now, this film is actually very similar to a newer film that came out just last year called Bad Hair. Sorry, while I was writing that part of the script, my cat walked over the keyboard and decided to add his own little flair. Anyways, the film is about a young woman who gets a weave in hopes of succeeding at the television station she works at, and it turns out her hair is haunted. And as it turns out, the second highest rated film on this whole entire list also has to do with hair. It's called X'd, and it's a Japanese horror film where a hairdresser is given hair extensions that were taken from a dead girl's head before she was murdered. This film definitely features the most hair. There are countless cringeworthy visuals of hair entering and exiting people's bodies, and it's just one big hair-a-thon. Finally, you have In Fabric, which is a movie about a killer dress that came out in 2019.
2019.
3 of these films came out in the span of just 1 year, about killer jeans, hair, and a dress. Could this be the resurgence of the genre of clothes coming to life and killing people? And will this be the perfect genre for my hypothetical slasher film? We'll find out. Furniture. It's in your house. That's a good tagline for this section. There's so many possibilities when it comes to furniture coming alive in your house and killing you. A chair that was haunted when someone farted in it so hard that they died. That was too far. Let me back it up. Maybe a beanbag chair that suffocates people, or maybe like an ottoman that rolls over people, or just your average unassuming rug. One of those swallowed up the kid in Room and kidnapped him. The oldest film in this genre that I can find is from 1977. It's a film called Deathbed, The Bed That Eats. That's like if you called Chucky Scary Doll, the doll that kills. Seems a bit redundant. Deathbed is a surrealist horror film, so it gets really artsy and weird with the way that it portrays its deaths. It's sort of this big bed that's filled with liquid inside, and I guess at one point in the film, it drinks Pepto-Bismol. No matter how evil this killer is, he has the same gastrointestinal problems as the rest of us. Killer Sofa is another similar film, but it's a lot campier. Is that the term that film nerds use when a movie just sucks? Yeah, it definitely falls under that category, but it's very conscious of its comedy. The sofa has these beady eyes that stare you down, and one of its first kills is when it pushes this guy's shins up against the oven door. Pretty goofy. It ends up sucking the souls out of some people as usual. That classic trope of killer sofa films. Come on, guys, let's get a little more creative. Now, one of the most famous horror series of all time is called Amityville, which is based off of a novel of the same name. Somehow, after its first film in the series, it went on to create 25 different sequels. Now, I bet you're wondering how a film that began as a classic ended up having a sequel in 2021 called Amityville Vampire that looked like this. With 4 Amityville films coming out in 2016, most of these aren't meant to be canonical sequels to these original films.
Fuck this.
Babe. You know the drill.
What the fuck?
Come on!
The novel the film is based off of a real story that is essentially public domain. So any indie filmmaker can come by and slap the Amityville name on their horror film, and then they can just have it right on the Wikipedia page, including me. So maybe that's something I have to take into account when creating my final film. Funny enough, there's a film from 2005 called Amityville Horror that stars Ryan Reynolds. But the 2 Amityville films that I want to talk about today are from 1989 and 1992. The first one is called Amityville 4, The Evil Escapes, and the second one is the 6th film from the series, and it's called Amityville, It's About Time. The Evil Escapes is about a killer lamp that terrorizes a family. The lamp, which happens to be from the original Amityville house, was bought by a woman trying to buy an ugly gift as a joke for her sister, but as she buys the lamp, she cuts her finger on it. Then she freaking dies from tetanus. I know that kind of sucks, but I have to say that's kind of embarrassing in a film where an actual lamp can just strangle you with an electrical cord. Now, this film is kind of in the middle of the direct killing and sort of a psychic hands-off approach, because although the lamp does carry out some of the deaths itself, it also seemingly haunts the rest of the house, and many of the deaths are not solely from the lamp. Amityville, It's About Time is about a clock. Very smart title. Very similarly, it's a clock that was brought back from the original Amityville house, so it's spooky. I think it's a bit tougher for a clock to terrorize a family, so this one's very hands-off, usually spooking multiple people with these visual hallucinations. I'm not even sure if I should consider this film in the same genre because the object itself doesn't really move. It just ticks really loud and hurts everyone's ears.
Help me! Somebody help! Help me!
Now let's get into some less popular categories. Let's go for your classic household appliance. Maybe a microwave that floats around and explodes people with its microwaves. So it sounds like the microwave itself has a bunch of little microwaves that go around and explode the people. Or a sink that sprays you, I guess. Or what about a space heater that tries to eat people? Well, lucky for you, that last one exists. Battle Heater is a Japanese horror film from 1989 about a kotatsu that comes to life and eats people. A kotatsu is basically a low wooden table with a heat source built into it, and it was very popularly used in Japanese houses. And in my Animal Crossing house. The film starts with this amazing abstract car crash sequence where these two guys who are moving together go flying in the air with their car, only to be crushed by a bigger version of their car. One of the men appears to be dead, so the other uses a taser to revive him, which apparently works. They get out of their car to find their stuff lying everywhere, and everything seems to be intact, except that the recently revived roommate can't find his kotatsu. The other guy swears they never had a kotatsu, but at last, the dead guy finds it and puts it into the moving truck. When removing the kotatsu from the truck, once the roommates reach their destination, it pops out of the truck and ever so slightly bops him on the head. From what I watched, the film is hilarious, and I love the way they go about some of the practical effects, even if it sacrifices a little bit of realism. I found this interaction with one of their new neighbors especially funny. There's this scene in the movie where this band is playing a show and the kotatsu just shows up behind him and eats him while the crowd screams in horror. Now another film we have to talk about in the appliance come to life murder slasher genre is Blades. It's a film from 1989 where a bunch of golfers have to decide whether or not they want to continue their golf tournament or fight a killer lawnmower. Sounds like I'm exaggerating? Oh, you don't think I'm exaggerating because we just talked about a movie where a space heater comes to life and eats people? Well, I'm still going to pretend like you don't believe me. Here's a scene in the trailer where they say just that.
Now, they are faced with the dilemma of whether to call off the tournament.
Absolutely not.
Or confront the deadly killer.
The Refrigerator is the newest and my final film in the appliance genre, and it's from 1991, making me think that the killer appliance genre needs to have a comeback. The last glimpse we got of the genre was in that Unfriended movie when that kid made a hand smoothie over Skype. The Refrigerator is about a couple that moves into a house with an evil refrigerator. Then they learn that the fridge is actually evil and eats people and sends them to hell. Sounds like it does anything but keep it cool. Thank you. It's hard to find much info on this movie, but in the trailer, there's just this lengthy scene of this worker trying to fight the refrigerator, and then he becomes brutally murdered. This is a tough category because I couldn't really figure out where to put these ones. They weren't really appliances or furniture, so I just lumped them in this confusing machine category. And I'm hoping it doesn't get the highest score because then I'll be very confused. The first film is from 1983 and it's called The Lift, and it's about a killer elevator. The premise reminds me of Shyamalan's Devil, which is that movie about the elevator where a bunch of people die in it, I guess. Except this movie's a lot more direct. The elevator literally uses its cables in one scene to just grab this guy and suck him up into the shaft. I really like this part in the trailer where this guy just gets his fat head stuck in the elevator and screams.
Deadlier.
In 1995, we had The Mangler, and I'm gonna give you 5 seconds to guess what this movie's about. Remember, it's about a machine. Laundry press. Did you get it right? You didn't get it right? Well, I guess you're kind of a stupid idiot. This is a Stephen King film about a big old laundry press, and the trailer's so dramatic, I love it so much. I don't know why you wouldn't just leave the building if you don't want a massive laundry press to kill you. I don't know. Maybe I'm too cynical. Then finally in 2001, you get The Shaft, which is about a demonic sex toy. A couple who is on the brink of their breakup go to a sex shop to see if they can spice up their relationship. When the boyfriend gets mad and he yells at the old man working in the shop, the old man curses the toy, and then craziness ensues. Halloween fools! You just fell for the oldest prank in the book. You really thought there was a Halloween movie about a haunted dildo? Get a grip. No pun intended. The Shaft is of course another film about a killer elevator that comes to life and kills people, and the trailer is hilariously fast-paced and chaotic.
Oh my God!
But luckily for us, we don't even have to wonder if this film is good and worth watching because the description already lays it out for us. Now this is where things get interesting because I really only put 2 films in this category since I ruled out dolls. The first film is called Buzzed, and it's about a haunted sex toy that takes over a couple trying to spice up their relationship. That's a funny joke. At least a little bit of air came out of your nose. Come on, give it to me. The first film is another Amityville film called Amityville Dollhouse, and it came out in 1996. Family finds a dollhouse that replicates the Amityville house, blah, blah, blah. Everyone gets haunted. You know how it works. I think I'm starting to understand why this genre is dying. The trailer's edited together to look like a high school final film project.
Get with the program, boy.
You're trying to really scare me, Dad.
I'm killing Jim.
For some reason, I feel right at home in this house.
And is that a single frame of a teenage boy standing in his boxers looking at the mirror? He sort of looks like he peed his pants and he just walked into his mom's room and asked her to help clean up for him. The other film we have came out over 20 years later, and it's called The Drone. Surprise! It's about a drone. The film starts with a murderer who kidnaps a girl, and when frickin' SEAL Team 6 comes to kill him, he kills one of them with the blade of his drone. If anyone has used a drone before, the blades are almost always just made of plastic. I don't know if you could just slice a SWAT guy's neck with one of those things, but I'm not the drone serial killer guy. Which, I'm not trying to split hairs over serial killers here, but if you're gonna become a serial killer, it's not that cool to be the guy who just holds a drone and slices people's necks with the blade. It's like if I killed people by bludgeoning them with the back of a paintball gun. Anyways, the guy goes up to the roof, and right before the police light him up, he's struck by lightning. We've all been there. And then he drops the drone and dies. Police detective man picks up the drone, drives it home, and in the process gets his face sliced up and the car flips and he dies. Mom with the baby gets her neck sliced, Mr. Bertram gets his butt sliced, and if you were wondering, it showed the inside of his butthole. And then I guess the drone posted a meme of the man's bloody butt with a funny caption and emojis. Unless someone else made the meme, I wouldn't know. I obviously did not watch this movie. I just looked at the kill count for it. Then the drone just straight up possesses a guy. Yeah, I'd say that was a pretty integral moment in cinema history. For our final category, food, we only have 1 film, and that's The Ginger Dead Man. It's a cult classic in many regards. It's not mine, but maybe other regards for other people. Ginger Dead Man is of course about a gingerbread man, and the man who plays this haunted creature, Gary Busey. This movie is just created by some random guy's Reddit post, and it's as hilarious as it sounds. Near the start of this movie, we just get this horrible monologue from this guy who really wants to be an amateur wrestler, and it's just the movie version of this meme.
They're even gonna let amateurs compete tonight. A mosh pit of tag team damage and body slammage. This could be my shot at the big time. And in this corner, straight from Hell's Kitchen, the Butcher Baker.
Sounds like fun.
Then the guy opens the box of gingerbread seasoning and accidentally cuts himself, exclaiming a word that should never leave a man's mouth.
Telling Dad some dirty joke to keep him from getting yelled at.
Ah, heck.
Ah, heck. Ah, heck. I sliced my flipping hot dog.
Ah, heck.
This dude does the worst possible thing you could do inside of a kitchen, and he puts his arm over the gingerbread mix and bleeds into it. In what world would your first instinct be to grab your arm and then bleed into the closest food you could find?
Do you want me to take you to a doctor?
The Butcher Baker needs no doctor. He can always take the heat. Heck.
This dude definitely runs a Discord server. Then he insists he doesn't need any help, and once the girl leaves, he starts monologuing to the mirror about his upcoming amateur wrestling match.
Greetings, masked mercenary. We meet at last. Prepare to meet your maker, for tonight your ass is toast. Your ass is toast.
Then this old lady is mad that the competing bakery has this banner up that I can't read since the resolution is too low. So she shoots it down with a shotgun. For as silly as this movie is, it takes 25 minutes before the ginger dead man even shows up on the screen. It seems like they spend the whole beginning of the film just talking about their aspirations and grief in the bakery, which no one cares about in a film about a killer gingerbread man. The gingerbread man runs over a dude with a car, stabs a girl in the head, and shoots a gun, all while being 2 feet tall. It's a real treat and I think a real historical turning point when it comes to our relationship with horror movies. It's time for the award show. Flawless statistical data to help me decide what my Halloween inanimate object come to life movie is gonna be. Coming in last has gotta be the food category. It literally has one movie in the category, and it's not a good one. Ginger Dead Man actually tied for the lowest scoring film out of every single film on this list. So unfortunately, the future of food-based slasher films may be off the table for a while. In 6th place, we have the toy category. Again, stunted by its lack of movies, the 2 films that fill up this category do not land at all, both scoring around a 4 out of 10 on IMDb. So sadly, my Toy Story horror spin-off where Sid gets revenge on our gang of heroes and the whole entire film is just 2 hours of that one really scary scene from Toy Story, it's not gonna happen. In 5th place, furniture. Every one of these movies had bad reception, but Killer Sofa was the real anchor that weighed down this ship. That was the film that tied Ginger Dead Man for the worst scored film. In 4th place, we have Machines. I was really hoping this one wouldn't win because it really has no definition. It would have screwed up my whole entire operation. Scoring on the podium in 3rd place, we have Appliances. Having only 3 movies in the appliance category definitely helped because Space Heater happened to tie for the 2nd highest scored movie on this list, boosting the rest of the appliance category up to a comfortable 3rd place. Who would have thought that the Hungry Space Heater movie would have scored so much better than A Mean Refrigerator? I guess it pays to risk it sometimes. And in 2nd place, we have Clothing, which makes our 1st place winner the Automotive category. Both categories had more films in it than any other category, which could have either helped it with one film not being able to weigh it down, or hurt it with any other category having a single good film that would have propelled it above either category. Luckily for them, a lot of those films sucked, so it was the former. Clothing was a surprising category to get 2nd place because of just how innocent Clothing seems, but maybe that ended up being an advantage to the category in the long run. The worst scoring film in this category, Bad Hair, still ended up with a pretty good score of 5.5, which allowed 2 of the higher scored movies to push this category up to 2nd place. X and In Fabric were those 2 high scoring films, with X tying as the 2nd highest scoring film on the entire list. And finally, our winner, Automotives. I think the category had an advantage because of the safe nature of an automotive coming to life and killing people. I know that sounds absurd, but when you're thinking about the rest of the films on this list, I'd much rather pick a car or a truck or a bulldozer. Maybe even a tire, because Rubber happened to be the 3rd highest scoring film in the automotive category. Christine happened to be the highest scoring film on the entire list with a 6.7 out of 10, which with 23 films you'd expect better, but you can't really ask for more when we're talking about movies where cars are just like booping people off of bridges. Next up, I want to look at our direct and indirect killers. Do movies that contain a refrigerator body slamming a man against a window perform better? Or maybe a clock that just ticks really loud and has ghosts do all the work for him? Well, surprisingly enough, indirect killers take the cake for this one, scoring 0.3 higher than our direct ones. Could this have been because the indirect killers only had 4 films on their list versus the direct killers 17 films, and that Christine, the highest scoring film on the entire list, falls within the indirect killers list, heavily skewing the data, and that my video and the way I collect data and the scoring system is inherently false because I refuse to acknowledge that the antagonist of the film has almost nothing to do with how the score will film, and the directing, acting, and writing and infinite amount of other factors will weigh so heavily on the film score that this video is practically pointless and I should have never made it in the first place? Yeah. The final scoring I did to gather my film's premise was to figure out whether or not the title should be directly telling you what the antagonist is. Is it a very literal name like the drone, the car, or Bad Hair? Or is it just loosely related like Rubber, Blades, and the Mangler? My data found that even though there's a pretty even split between literal and non-literal titles, the non-literal titles still won by about 0.5 points. So that's the list. What I'm gathering from my flawless information is that I should be looking at a car, since the top 2 rated films in this category were both cars, and the 3rd rated film is about a car tire. Now, I think it's a little boring to pick a car once more, and I'm not boring. Trust me, I want nothing more than to make a very intelligent, abstract piece of film. I have integrity. So I think I'm gonna go with one of the car's parts. Let's go with, a passenger seat. Then of course we have to figure out our antagonist's powers. Since my data tells me that I should be looking for an indirect killing method, we're gonna go with the classic psychic powers. But instead of just exploding everything, I want the passenger seat to have a sort of like Star Wars force power. So we can kind of toss people around and choke them and smack them. Finally, we have to work on the title. I just need a non-literal title that won't just be the passenger seat, and then I'll be home free. I'm thinking, calling shotgun. Yeah, that's pretty epic. Anyways, guys, I've fulfilled my spooky duties for this year's Halloween, so I'm gonna go eat some candy. Thank you for hanging out with me as long as you do on a day as important as this. Unless you're not watching this on Halloween, then you suck. But there's just something kind of sweet about coming together and just celebrating true film. If you're still watching this far into the video and you're not subscribed, you should do that. I just checked with YouTube actually, and it's free. So is the like button and commenting. It's crazy how that works. My socials are all nickisnotgreen, whether it's Twitter where I post too much about my personal life hoping for a confirming response, or Twitch where I stream very often and just watch content. Just all the content. That's me. I watch it. On Twitch. Have a happy Halloween and a great week ahead. Bye!